Hey everybody. Okay, everybody, welcome to the e-NABLE R&D Hangout for 2015, October 26th. And Wes was going to start with some show and tell from his latest project involving the phone home project with a Wi-Fi device in a hand for transmitting data back to a server somewhere, or at least back to a phone.
That's right. That's what I got to show. And thank you for telling them everything. You take away my thunder. They're in trouble.
Well, you have been talking about it for a few weeks, so.
Yeah, I've been greasing the chute.
So I figure there's not a lot of spoilers involved in that part.
Yeah, anybody who's been following the e-NABLE Google Plus group is familiar with this device. Of course, I had to put springy wires. You know, cut the red wire. But that's the power. See, what we have here is a gauntlet. On the hand, for those who may not be familiar who are watching, it's this part of the hand that fits on the wrist.
Lift it up a little bit higher. Yeah.
It's this part of the hand, this big part here. It's the largest part of the hand. It goes on the wrist, and it provides half of the angle that works the hand.
In medieval armor, it was called a vambrace.
All right. Get our knights and ladies on our medieval chivalry going. So that's what we got here. Is a gauntlet where I have put on the back of the tensioner block, I put a ESP8266 board. Actually, the ESP8266 is this metal can and this antenna on a small board that actually gets mounted on this larger board. And the larger board is created by Adafruit Industries, I think they call themselves, but it's adafruit.com. And it provides a lot of the glue stuff that you would want to put on a product like this. It provides a voltage regulator, diode O-ring of the two power supplies, the battery, or the FTDI connector here for USB, and it provides two buttons and an LED. So that's very handy, because the ESP8266 product, well, you know what? I got to stop myself, because I'm telling you details before I tell you the overview. So I apologize for that. The first overview is the point of the project is to get the hand to phone home with usage data. So what we want is for someone to have a hand that will be connected to their Wi-Fi network, and as they go through their day, it'll count, say, the hand closures, or monitor the battery voltage, or what have you, and report those numbers as metrics to the central office. And we have set that up, and it does work. And the second thing that's really important... What?
I'm sorry, is that just an ESP, the Wi-Fi board, or is there an Arduino in there as well?
No, it's just the ESP. The ESP has got some I/O and one analog input that we can use for control and sensing. So it's sort of like a mini Arduino at 3.3 volts.
Right, it's got its own processor.
Yeah, it's got a 32-bit 80 megahertz processor. So it's got some beat to it, some speed, which I think is helpful for things like changing the bits at a reasonable speed and stuff like that. And the second thing that's important is I'd like to mention that Chuck on Toolless has joined the project, so there's two of us working on it.
Right. And see in the sidebar, he says that you can program with Arduino.
Yes.
So
Oh,
using a lot of the
yes.
same,
Yes. Even
so
though
use
the
a lot of the
chip
same
is,
libraries and languages.
yeah, I guess in that sense it is an Arduino chip. It's not an ARM processor, but it's an Arduino chip because this chip is programmed with the Arduino programming language using the Arduino IDE. You can also program it in a variety of other languages, including C++. Lisp has been ported to it, and Lua is the main language that they talk about. But for familiarity, I chose to go with the Arduino platform. And Python, MicroPython is a big one. Now Chuck is helping out. He's a retired engineer, so he's been around the block a lot more times than I have, and he's providing me with his wisdom, his advice, and showing me some software tools. And we have discussions. Sound like two old engineers talking to each other, you know.
Yes.
And it's enjoyable. We're making it fun and getting the job done too. Which, by the way, go ahead.
There are a lot of things I like about your arrangement there. I like the battery rails on the
Yeah,
side.
you mean the warp nacelles?
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
The warp nacelles on my spaceship? Let me show you how they work. I 3D printed them so they're mixed, they're morphed into the print of the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, they give it some strength, some rigidity, so we no longer have that problem of the gauntlet snapping off on the ends.
Right.
You know, and that's been a big problem. I know that Skip has spent a lot of time and effort getting around that, and so have several other people solving that problem, and this does it. Now, what you do is you put a battery in there, and it snaps in. But what you do want to do is you want to put it in the right direction, which I did not do. So let me take, you have to use a tool of some sort to get it out. I'm sure that I've had them where they work, you could get them out with your finger too, but all right, in the right direction.
Have to put a cutaway on one of the sides to grip the edge of the battery with or something.
That would be a good idea. So there we have two batteries in place. The other two are not.
What drafting software were you using to design those rails?
OpenSCAD.
OpenSCAD, yeah. So it's going to be something where if you adjust the size of the gauntlet of the van brace, it'll automatically scale that piece separately from it.
Yes, I put in a scale of X, Y, and Z to give us the ability to scale the gauntlet separately in X, Y, and Z if we want. And the same is true with this tensioner. The tensioner might want to be scaled, but the board not. So I think I got that right in the file. If not, I'll add it to the file. But so it takes 3 batteries to run it, but you can run it with up to, I think it's up to 15 volts because it's got a regulator on the input. So I put 4 of these batteries. Now, the batteries can handle the current demand of this chip, which is 250 milliamps, a quarter of an amp, just kind of a lot. At most, I think under normal conditions it's 75 milliamps. However, what happened to me when I tested this for battery life was I put 2 fresh batteries and 2 old batteries, and there was, after 20 minutes, there was a flash of light and a loud boom, a loud noise. as the juice spewed out of one of the old batteries.
Right, and cracked open because of too much current going through it.
Yeah, it heated it up.
Yeah,
And
not a good
so,
idea to mix
so we're going to
the
have to
batteries.
be, yeah, we're going to have to be careful to warn people about proper use of the batteries. Or, you know, another battery solution might be more appropriate.
So what is the what data is your or what is your what is it sending right now? What data is it transmitting?
Well, what I was told by John was to make the simplest thing you can possibly come up with, and we'll build on it from there. So what I did was I monitored the battery voltage. And here you can see two resistors. Now, these boards are not this board is not soldered together because I live in a nursing home and there's oxygen across the hallway, oxygen tanks, and I can't solder. But I did a real kind of neat job of wrapping the wire, and it seems to have mostly worked. There are two resistors. It's a voltage divider with a 3.3 k ohm resistor on the bottom side and a 47 k ohm resistor on the top side. And that gives us enough voltage division that we won't damage the part even if we use up to the maximum voltage that the regulator can handle. So that's about the sweet spot that I put it. So we got the two resistors, and we got the two battery leads, and we've got 3 or 4. There's actually 4, but one of them didn't come out right. I've got 3 little wire ties made of, you know, my ordinary, the same wire, 24 gauge wire, I think it is, 22. And we've been testing it. Ro was kind enough to make a file on the, oh, hi Lydia, to make a file on the main servers that I could, with a web interface, an API. And what happens is, see, I wanted to get this thing done as simply as possible, like we said. And I didn't want to write an app, mostly because, you know, then you've got to have a program for Mac, PC, Linux, Android, and iOS, and I don't have the ability to do that. Best thing would be processing, which could get all but iOS.
Hey Les, we have a question in the Q&A. Jeff Gold is asking what the minimum voltage was again.
I have seen the thing operate with a battery voltage of 3.14 volts. When the batteries dropped below that, it stopped operating.
Okay.
So 2 batteries won't quite do it, and 3 will do it, and more than 3 will do it.
Okay, thanks.
So, what we have is a log file, and it logs the date and time stamp for the entry every time it phones home. Oh, and I was saying about the software. I didn't want to write a program on the computer, so what I did is I figured out how to use, what is the current draw, peak and average? Average is 75 milliamps. Peak is 250 milliamps. and the regulator can provide up to 500 milliamps at 3.3 volts. And you'll pardon me, I have to reseat in my chair here. Get a cam off for that. But I can keep talking. Well, maybe I can't. Hold on a second. I'll be right back.
All right.
Sliding off the front edge of my chair.
So right now your log file is mostly just battery stats?
Yes.
Right, just to prove that it can be done.
At first, it said nothing but the time and date stamp. And then it said, hello world. And then it had the battery voltage. And then I put in the chip ID. I found out there was a unique chip ID. And I put that in. I had to add a mesh library, a mesh network library designed for this to get the chip ID. But I added that. And so that's like a 10-digit number, approximately. And we've had 3 separate chip IDs enter into the log file, and it works. So I think we have proof of concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we can figure out what data to actually gather.
Yes. Well, I don't really know what the next step is. I have a bulleted list of discussion items that Chuck put together that we can get to in a minute. But I guess I'm ready to start putting together. I have several of these ESP devices, and I'm ready to start providing them to fabricators to incorporate them into their designs for. I met with Melina and JC, Justina. Anyway, with people from administration last week, and they said maybe we could get a group of testers who are already testing hands to use these things. Now, one of the some of the features that we can incorporate for future use is we can add sensors and we can add actuators. The other thing we can do is we can, in addition to phoning home and reporting usage data, we can have the central office be able to communicate to the hand. And we can also, I recently realized, we can do hand-to-hand communications as well. That is assuming we have a communication interface of some type. Which, actually, we kind of do. Because what I was getting into a moment ago about I didn't want to write an app. So what I did instead is I used the capabilities of this chip, which is a pretty powerful little device, to solve that problem. What I do is it's a two-step process. There are 2 functions on the device, and I go into my Wi-Fi let me actually walk us through the sequence that someone would use to operate the hand. What do you think?
Sure.
Okay. And I'm sorry to take up more time than usual. I usually do, but there's a lot of details to share about this. This is an FTDI friend. It costs $15 from Adafruit. And this is a mini B to USB-A USB cable. Costs $3. And I'm going to plug the FTDI friend into the header pins so it's connected like this for programming the unit. And I'm doing it now simply to provide power because I don't have enough AAA batteries to actually run the device. I don't physically have batteries. So I need to order some batteries. But we're getting power from the computer now. And this is the, I guess you can't see it because of the polarization and the glare, but
Yeah.
that's the screen for the Wi-Fi screen in the settings of my iPhone. And there's an entry that says e-NABLE, e-NABLE. And I just touch that, and it wakes up as an access point, so now the phone is talking to the chip directly. And the beauty of that is you don't have to go through the Wi-Fi network, the local network of the place where you are. You can go directly to the chip. In a minute, it's going to be talking to the local Wi-Fi network. But see, I have to tell it the SSID and the password of my local Wi-Fi network in order for it to know how to communicate with it. See what I mean?
Right.
So what I do is I go into the information section and I see the router and DNS IP address that's there, and I remember that.
I think with an iPhone, if you hold the home button and tap the wake sleep button, it'll take a snapshot that you could then send to your computer and look. And if you wanted to screen share it, you could show us what that looks like.
Oh, I have photos of it already.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll pull up those photos. Let me screen share.
Yeah, that'll help. Might give us a clearer view of what you're showing us than looking at through the glare and the polarization.
Okay. So now I see trouble. Hi again, trouble. All right, let me. This is an e-NABLE. Come on. Phone home. Documents. Instructions. And we have. This is what it looks like on my computer, actually. Oh no, everybody sees my IP address. Oh no, I'm going to be hacked to oblivion. No, I'm not worried about it. It changes. Yeah. But SHC guest is where I'm normally connected.
Address, so you can't get there from the outside world.
What's that?
It's also a private address, so we can't get there from the outside world.
Oh, okay, good.
10 dot and okay. 192.168 dot and 172 dot anywhere between 16 and 32. Those are all three different ranges of private addresses that are not routable on the open internet.
Okay, I believe you. No, of course I do. All right, so this line here says enable. So we just click on that, and we get the IP address of the e-NABLE connection from the information right, and then we put that here. You can see that it's 192.168.4.1.
Right.
And other people who've tried it, another person who tried it got the same thing. So we get a please select your.
Or, yeah, that'll be the address of the hotspot, which is the hand.
The hand, yeah. That's the address of the hand.
Your computer would get assigned a .2 or a .3, depending on what order you connected to it with.
Yes, that seems to be what happens. So, again, you're right on the money, trouble. And I click SHC guest, and then I get this screen on my phone, or my computer actually in this example. Please enter your local network password. Da, 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 da. And you enter that. You'll notice it has, what it's done is it's sent an SSID equal SHC guest into the hand, and the hand has parsed out to the knowledge of what the SSID is from that. It does the same thing with the password. And then you get this message: thank you for entering your network information, phoning home now.
That
and
is
then
the process for telling the hand to connect to a Wi-Fi.
Yeah, how do I stop screen sharing?
Okay.
How do I stop the screen sharing?
Yeah, we're seeing you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, so
Nathaniel was posting a few things on the side that were related to battery management.
okay.
One of them's a link to Mouser Electronics, which let's see that chip.
Mouser link.
Yeah,
Battery management USB port AC battery charger. Oh, that's a handy chip.
Yeah, this
Very
is
nice.
showing myself. Yeah, this is what he linked to. And he also he also showed this link to an article on Instructable about a MentiBoost, which is a battery-powered USB charger.
Okay. Those are good things to know about. And anything else?
I figured instead of charging a phone, you could end up having your device be that's quote-unquote charged.
I didn't hear everything you said.
Yeah, instead of charging the phone, say again. Oh, using something like that to charge your phone from your hand?
Well, I was actually meaning that you could use the functionality of the MentiBoost to power the device, because it's like it's drawing a current. It's not actually charging, but it's drawing a current. So I figured there was no real difference there.
Right.
The Echo.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, you're saying that you could run it off a USB as well as charge the battery at the same time.
No, he was thinking that that gives you a good circuit that you could use a pair of batteries to power the device, I think.
Oh, because it's got a step-up converter, a boost converter. Yeah, that's another option. Batteries are a bit tricky on this concept. I'm going with the reason I came up with the solution I did is because we were tasked with doing the simplest possible thing that we could possibly do, and that would be external AAAs that are rechargeable and recharged in a station that's plugged into the wall. You know, I mean, there's costs associated with that, but the cost on the hand is exactly $10. It's just its battery cost adds to that. I don't know. We have a lot of options, and we have to do some testing to see. I shied away from the use of LiPo batteries because I read an article that Chuck provided to me that in which I skimmed through the article, in which there are certain circumstances where the LiPos can explode under a lot of heat. And, you know, I just would be concerned about that from a safety standpoint. And then, you know, I had the two batteries explode because I didn't put equal charged batteries in. So that's an important factor to learn about, to learn from as well. And maybe we should. Are there any other sidebar comments to address?
Eric Griffin is just asking the general question, what application are we planning on using this phone home capability for? What kind of data are we looking to gather? Right now, you're just showing that we can transmit the data.
Yeah, right now it solves the problem of usage, because if the hand is being used, the batteries are going to run out of voltage, and every time the batteries are replaced, the battery voltage, the new higher battery voltage, will appear in the log. So we'll see a draining of the batteries with every 10-minute entry, and then a recharge of the batteries. And we can scan for that, parse it out with a Perl script or something like that, and know that the hand is being used because the batteries are being changed. It was the simplest way, because it requires only 2 resistors, that I could think to accomplish the initial mission, which is to determine if the hand's being worn. Then we can use other sensors, such as what Troubles suggested last week, which is the cord, the flexible cord. We can put that between the gauntlet and the palm. Yeah.
So you could measure the strength or the amount of resistance that the hands are encountering as they're using them.
Yeah, and also, you know, if you want to get into that level of detail, yes. But even as a basis, it gives you a number of flexes per hour statistic, you know.
Oh, right. Just for gathering usage data at the moment, I guess, Eric.
No. Actually,
yeah,
you know what?
A lot more uses for this device in a myoelectric arm, or I don't know, using your phone to toggle between different gripping modes.
Hold on, I gotta stand up again.
All right.
I'm in a little bit of pain. I'm sorry to bother anyone with this physical detail, but
Yeah.
I don't usually take up this much time with the R&D meeting, but
That's all right. What you're playing with is interesting.
Hey, mind if I chime in for a moment?
Come on in.
please.
Well, if you're talking about using it on a myoelectric, power supply isn't really relevant because you can tap it right off the existing Myo supply. But
Right.
I noticed the Hackberry arm. If you look at the form factor of the batteries it takes, it looks like it takes a standard DSLR camera and camcorder format, which makes it frighteningly cheap and easy to have a lot of batteries with real high watt density, cheap, light, small. They give the right voltages. I mean, 3.7 is a common camera battery, as is 7.4, which probably want the higher voltage for the Myo arms, which could, of course, be put in parallel or series for more capacity or voltage. But using a standard form factor, a very light, small battery with very cheap and easily available replacement and wall chargers and things seems like a better bet than trying to go with expensive and relatively bulky low watt density AA's perhaps.
Sure, I'm all for changing the battery, no problem. This was
this was proof of concept, yeah.
Yeah, that's all this was. And the AA's have the AAA's have other issues, such as there is some interference between the connectors and the placement of the batteries. So there's a little connector here that interferes with this battery channel.
Right.
So
you might have to change the orientation.
We can just say, I think it's safe to say here that the alpha test is done and is successful, because we are phoning home, we are reporting battery usage, and we got it, it works. And it's been verified by another person, and it tried on 3 separate devices. So now we need to learn from people like the fellow who was just talking and follow his advice.
Yeah.
What was your name again, sir?
Oh, that was Eric Griffin.
Eric Griffin, okay. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, he was also asking questions on the sidebar chat, which is why he came in at that point. Yeah, I'm not... I like the idea of being able to phone home to report usage data. I was thinking one thing that could be used with Wi-Fi would be a way of controlling your phone, or controlling your hand from your phone, like being able to have an app on your phone that you could touch something to tell it to use a different grip mode, like to switch it from one finger grip mode to full hand grip mode to shifting the thumb over for key grip mode or whatever else.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think we've been discussed that for a long time. I remember there was an arm that had an LCD screen in the face of it and all that, and we talked about going wireless allowed fewer ports, fewer areas for dust entry, less breakage, lighter. Right. I think Bluetooth might be a good way to go with that. Wi-Fi is intensive for a number of resources.
A lot of overhead and a lot of let's see. Response time is a little bit lower on Wi-Fi because the packet overhead is greater than you have with Bluetooth. So Bluetooth is probably a better protocol for
energy, complexity, everything across the board. Bluetooth looks better, and it's not hard to put a Bluetooth adapter into any other Wi-Fi enabled device if you really wanted it to go over a network.
Well, as a matter of fact, there's a new chip out that Chuck brought to my attention. I have seen it once before. Who was putting that out, Chuck? I don't recall. But it has Bluetooth capability built into it. It's set up as an Arduino. In fact, the Arduino 101 board has this chip. But that's a full-sized Arduino board, but we can expect small boards like this to be made available using that chip in the due course of time. And then we don't have to have a separate Bluetooth module if we want to go to Bluetooth. So the Bluetooth is definitely an option. I have shied away from Bluetooth out of my own personal experience because what happens is kids hack Bluetooth.
Right.
They have software. Unfortunately, right now, the bad guys are winning in the hacking area, and any script kiddie can get a piece of software that will enable their phone to duplicate and piggyback your Bluetooth, and then I've had them do things like insert keystrokes and mouse motions into my computer while I'm operating it. It's gotten so bad that I don't use Bluetooth. I leave it turned off all the time. Not that Wi-Fi is perfectly secure either, but I tell you that Bluetooth
it at least has encryption capabilities.
Yeah, Bluetooth was never designed as a secure protocol, but that doesn't mean that there isn't some form of handshaking or firewall or some other form of encryption going over the Bluetooth. Bluetooth isn't secure and never was designed to be by nature. That doesn't mean you can't use other layers of security with it. Yeah.
Just like
that's true.
TCP/IP isn't inherently secure, but you can do things like SSL on your web traffic, and that can add layers of security using a variety of different encryption protocols. It's possible to do similar things at the application layer with Bluetooth connections too, to encrypt the data.
So we have both options. We have both options. We just have to look at something involving security in both cases. That makes sense. Because the kid's in a kid's environment, and kids are going to be kids. And that's if they can hack somebody's hand, boy, that's fun to some people,
Well, there's a million ways to handle that. Hell, you could do a public key kind of thing. I mean, and remember, there's differences in security when you're talking about something that is completely in the wild, having to speak to something else completely in the wild. There's another one about something within fairly closed or trusted networks, and there's not going to be that many of these things floating around. And the server side is going to know what this device is. I mean, sorry, I'm not expressing it well, but one way or another we can treat this like a relatively closed system. I mean, we can just, whitelist stuff. This doesn't need to be as open as the internet. We're talking about very distinct information from one point to another. Very, very small space.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
that makes sense.
The worst that would happen if somebody hacked the Bluetooth is they could change the gripping mode between hand usages, and if there's a phone that shows what the current gripping mode is, then the guy just changes it back before he grabs something. It wouldn't be hard to write software into the Arduino that's controlling the Hackberry to tell it to not change gripping modes while it's in the middle of being used to grip something. And if the phone is used to toggle between gripping modes, the phone could also display what gripping mode the hand is currently configured to use.
Or it could simply be a whitelisted device, for that matter, correct?
Right. You can't connect unless you are the right phone.
There's also the phone platform.
For that case, you might be able to directly connect to the phone via USB too.
True.
Yeah.
The OTG, I believe.
Since almost every Arduino has a USB interface, that doesn't seem like a bad idea.
Yeah, then the wireless is not necessary at all. It's
Then you add a phone mount to the forearm, and You cover a lot of, you fix a lot of problems.
Yeah, we have a lot of options here. But you know, I'm in favor when it comes to separate, different options and things like this. I'm in favor of both and, not either or.
Right.
You know, so we should pursue all these options if we have the resources to do so, and offer them, you know, have them work together in a coherent way.
We're not at a point right now where it matters what we're using right now. We're just testing proof of concept with this particular board to see if it can transmit data back to a server or back to another machine, informing that machine of whatever.
Is the desire? Sorry, is the desire for this to be transmitting relevant data in real time, or simply dumping usage logs periodically?
We discussed that, and we consider the usage logs to be a good solution for when you're out of range, or when you're not plugged in, or not connected for whatever reason.
Could it be something that simply downloads every night when they take off the arm and plug it into the wall to charge?
It depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it,
data you're gathering.
Yeah, right now, all we're trying to do is phone home. We're just trying to get the usage of whether the hand is being used or not.
So,
and I think that's a big step forward.
Timestamps when the wrist is flexed or whatever.
Yeah, so a nightly update of a small CSV file or whatever format you're using would probably be perfectly acceptable. The idea that it needs to be looking for hot spots every time you walk into range to a coffee shop or home or the office, it's sending constant data, actually seems to be problematic, buffering it and dumping it. It seemed to me, we're only talking about a few K of data here. It seems perfectly easy to bundle it up over a 12 or 24-hour period and then just dump it once a day when you plug it into charge.
We're not looking for hotspots. I don't know where you got that. No, I'm making a thing that looks for hotspots for a friend of mine.
Ah, okay. I was just thinking with the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth.
I don't know how that. It must have been. It's a strange coincidence that you mentioned that.
Oh,
but it's a separate project.
Okay, I just assumed Wi-Fi was in the discussion.
Function of this chip.
What's that?
I said looking for Wi-Fi hotspots seems an obvious function for this chip.
Yeah, this chip can do that, and that's actually, I'm making one of those for a friend of mine in London, England. He wants to turn his phone off to save the battery on his phone because he uses it a lot. And when he's just walking down the street, he wants a little blinky red light that tells him if there's a hotspot nearby. And I can't actually tell if there's a hotspot, but I can tell if there's a no password or a non-encrypted device network, and he could go in there and see if that's a hotspot. Like he'll see the light blink and there's a Starbucks there. Okay, they must have a hotspot.
So if there's McDonald's.
So that'd be a nice gift for him, but it's not. That's not something I plan to incorporate into this. But another thing it does. Well, let me just state simply, we're just trying to get usage data for now, because you look at the situation we have with the hands right now is we make the hand, we pass it on to the kid, we have our wonderful moment of joy, and the kid becomes the coolest kid in the classroom for a little while, and then after a while it may get thrown in the closet and never used, and we don't know why. And we'd like to know why. And providing us with usage data is going to help us to learn who's using the hand, and then we can communicate with that person. And who's not using the hand, we can communicate with that person. and just find out why or why not. So that's our first step. And all this talk of communication, bidirectional, go hand to hand, and counting flexes of the hand, and running motors, and you know, all the advanced stuff we researchers love to dream up is really not part of the current project.
Right.
You see what I mean? Actually, I think what would be a goal of the current project would be to make all of the options available for detecting usage. We have our Wi-Fi, we have our Bluetooth, we have our USB, and we have our phono. So there's 4 options that we should probably look at. I'll make it now that we've talked about it, I'll make it a point to look into each of those options.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've covered most of what you're playing with at the moment. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to show off today, or show and tell? Any other interesting, cool new toys anybody has to play with?
I got a haircut. Does that count?
Actually, I've been sitting in this wheelchair for a while, and I'm kind of uncomfortable in it. I'm going to have to go lay down.
Okay.
So
thanks for showing and telling about your current project, and it was good to get a look in at what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. That was very very interesting.
I'm happy to share, and I'm happy to be a part of e-NABLE doing this kind of thing. It's a real joy. And thanks for the interaction from everybody. It really makes it worthwhile.
No worries. You have a good evening.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Les. Have a good night.
Thank you.
See you, Les. Oh, wait. Before you go, there were some more sidebar in the Q&A.
No worries.
Okay. Yeah.
One of them was from me. Just, yeah.
Yeah, it's some conversation from Jeff Gold, mostly to you. Some lithium batteries. Yeah, it's a lot of conversation, mostly aimed at you. Nightly log dump is the idea. Oh, he was going to ask what the max log or buffer size on the board. I can probably look that up on the board.
I'm pretty well convinced that there's going to be single chip. Well, there's going to be dedicated data loggers with a whole lot less current draw than an Arduino. Having an Arduino is a heck of a thing just for data logging battery usage.
Yeah, I'm even just going with devices from Adafruit. There are micro Arduino devices that run on 3 volts that seem to have a lot less current draw than a lot of other things. That's one of the nice things about the ESP device that he's looking at. I think it was a fairly low draw device. I don't know for sure. He said something earlier about what the current draw was.
Oh, he was talking about a couple of 100 milliamp, which is not insignificant for something that's going to be running all day.
Sure.
I think you said it might have gone up to 350 milliamp.
Okay. Yeah, that would be more battery than we would like.
Yeah, not a lot going on at this end. Been spending the week fighting with embedded Linux on embedded systems and memory usage, and
That's what I do for a living. Is embedded systems with Linux.
nice. We'll have to discuss some of that stuff sometime. We're working BeagleBone black stuff. You know, it's the stuff we use to run the 3D printers. So.
I think the reason why Les was using the module that he was using was because he wanted to be able to have room to grow.
Right. He was also playing with that ESP board because it was a fairly powerful chip with a fairly easy method for accessing Wi-Fi that
as a testbed platform, it seems perfect.
Yeah. And it's a really cheap chip, so that's another advantage. Jeff Gold is saying in the Q&A that 75 milliamp hours minutes with a 200 average was what Les was saying earlier for the... Oh, 75 milliamp hour minimum, 200 average is what he said earlier.
I think that sounds right. I don't recall.
And he was also asking if Les had thought of using a single-cell lipo cell, rechargeable, and can carry a higher capacity at a lower weight. And he mentioned when he was talking to us that he's willing to switch to a better battery system, that right now he was just trying to do something quick and dirty. Matt from San Jose Matt SJ was asking if anybody here lives in Santa Cruz. I know that there are a lot of people in the group that live near Santa Cruz. I don't know if they live in Santa Cruz, but I don't know who's in the Bay Area in this chat at the moment.
No clue. Used to be my stomping grounds, but not for years.
Chuck says that he's over the hill in Sunnyvale.
I think there were some e-NABLE booths at the Maker Faire over there, though.
Yeah.
For what that's worth.
We definitely have some people on the peninsula and up in the city. I mean, there's a lot of guys at Autodesk that are working on the project, and they're working out of I forget which pier, but they've got Autodesk has a nice little facility on one of the piers that is doing some pretty interesting stuff with our hands. So there is definitely a group in the Bay Area that are doing this stuff. If he wants to, I really dismissed the question. If he wants to get a hold of people in the Bay Area, it's worth posting an introduction message into the community to ask for people to meet or whatever. That's probably the easiest way to find people to hang out with and to talk with, is to just go into the community and ask.
Anybody got anything else to cover?
I'm going to go check the post for the message. Let's see.
I do have something, at least peripherally related to R&D.
Okay.
Spoke with a group of artists, and my understanding is, I guess they got a gallery, they got a residency program. It's a non-profit group of artists of some indeterminate size, but relatively large. And we were discussing getting them involved in e-NABLE in the capacity of not only helping design some pretty awesome looking arms and hands, but getting them involved in the design process early enough that rather than having finished products they had to attempt to alter or glue things to, they could actually help streamline, work with the engineering side of things and actually create some not only more aesthetically pleasing arms, but more modular arms where sections were designed, mounting points. We discussed detachable backs of hands, different covers,
Right.
such
With
that
forms.
the hand could be a little more skeletal with a number of other fairings or covers on them that then could be modified, printed as one liked, so a hand could be configured by the user or to the user's specifications to look like anything they wanted. It's one of the we had a hard enough time getting hands that worked for the first couple of years of our being around. Now working, we can afford to work a little bit more towards making them a little more customizable, personalizable. The psychological aspect of them is something that isn't insignificant and we haven't really touched.
We've had a few related projects going on with new mounting rails and systems for attaching things to the devices. And I could see a lot of that would have some useful useful places for artistic people to design ways to attach to things. I think that having something like a fairings for the back of the hand or
backs of fingers, gauntlets, to various things like this, yeah.
Right. Just having different ways to attach attractive things to things. Another similar interesting thing with these hands is if they're printed in ABS, fingernail polish adheres to it very, very well. For I think the same reason that you can use acetone to soften the features, an acetone vapor to create better cohesion between the layers and round off the surfaces so that you don't have the definite lines showing where the printing layers are. I think that because ABS is soluble in acetone, it makes fingernail polish adhere to it really, really well, which is kind of interesting. A lot of little girls would spend time painting the fingernails on their hands. But I could see a lot of other uses for something like nail polish for completely changing the color of the hand.
Yeah, or in many cases changing shape. I don't know if you've seen, I believe Victoria Modesta, the model, missing a leg, and she winds up having a leg for each set of outfits she models. Or there's one person, it was an artist, who designed a foot and fairing for her leg and all that was, she created it. It was very similar to some of her own artwork and her own masks that she made. So the idea of, I guess the idea really got started because there were two people in my area, one in the state just north of me, one here in town. Both of them have arms. In fact, both of them have not only RIT arms, but commercial arms. And both kids use neither. The 9-year-old, I believe she's 9, really doesn't use them all that often, and the 14-year-old doesn't use them at all. They just never connected with them. And I've heard that a number of times, and in many cases where people have really customized them or made them their own, owning them. You talked about wanting to log usage of arms. Anything that makes people connect with them or feel like they're an extension of themselves a little more can't really be discounted. I mean, first we had to make them work. Now we can afford to, work on some of these secondary or tertiary issues.
Amy Mullins is a good example of somebody who plays lots of games. Yeah, Nathaniel, thank you for muting for Chuck. If you need to talk again, Chuck, feel free to unmute yourself. But you were making a lot of extra noise in the background. But it's helpful sometimes. We'll mute people. It's not because we want to shut you up. It's just because we just want the background noise to go away for a little bit. Anyway, Amy Mullins. And then into this sidebar. It's worth searching for her on the internet. She's got a lot of interesting things that she's done with custom designs for her legs that are pretty interesting. She's got a TED talk that's kind of cool, and yeah, she's done some pretty fascinating things.
I see. Good stuff. Yeah, I forget the artist who did her leg, like it was filigree. Have you seen that one? It's like a punchwork filigree leg.
The one that Amy had, or a different artist that had?
Different artist. And
yeah,
also,
there was a musician. I posted about her on my profile. There was another artist that she was a musician and was doing music videos, and she was one leg amputated and was doing a lot of interesting artwork, or was having a lot of interesting artwork done with her leg. I can't remember what her name was. Hold on. I post a lot more frequently in my on my profile than I remember. I'm not sure how far back I'm going to have to go to find it. But yeah, there have been a few artists that have done some really amazing things with legs, and I'm always interested in seeing the kind of things they do. I mentioned Amy because she's the first person I've heard of that's done these kind of things with her legs.
yeah. Hold on just a moment. I will. Seen this person?
Hold on. So, yeah, Victoria Modesta. That's the one I was thinking of. She did the spike leg, which was pretty exciting. And then, yeah, the one with bones, and one with lots of sound systems and other things like that. Her music videos are pretty exciting, although not safe for work sometimes.
Haven't seen any. She's a musician then?
Yeah, and a fetish model in the UK, but a pretty fascinating person, very much into radical self-expression and taking her disability and turning it into a power, a enhancement of who she is, and an exciting art form and things like that. She's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, anybody who can do that is just awesome. I don't know his name, but there's a kid, I guess he lost his leg at about 13 to cancer, and he did not like the plastic leg they gave him. He learned CNC machining so he could play around with his own legs. And
right.
I saw a little video clip on him, and he had about a dozen legs, made himself a rock climbing leg, a biking leg, a swimming leg. And he didn't do any of those things before he lost his leg either. I think it was more being ornery because everybody told him he couldn't.
Right.
As a wall full of legs, but it also gave him a career because he went through college learning CNC machining and engineering and design because that was his thing. Took control of it. Certainly not as, out there and glorious as the pop star, but inspiring nonetheless. People that own it really take it out there and express with it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through.
Be cool to get some of these people to be spokespeople for e-NABLE, because they make great role models for the kids.
I've been really enjoying the celebrities that have come forth to or have come forward to support the Limitless guys. Robert Downey Jr. presenting an Iron Man arm to that I forget what the kid's name was.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex. And Blue Man Group with another kid, and the dolphin with one flipper deformed in Florida. They brought one of the little girls there to meet the dolphin, and then a celebrity that was with the dolphin in a movie a few years ago, a young girl, showed up to present the arm to this kid.
Nice. I did not hear about that one. That's cool. Really, I mean, okay, cynical side coming out here, but really when it comes down to it, this is a confluence of, technology and humanitarian stuff and little kids and 3D printing and community, crowdsourced stuff.
Right.
It's like the perfect storm of PR goodness with no downside. I can't think of a celebrity that wouldn't be part of it, and if they wouldn't, their agent would kick them in the butt to come be a part of it if we just asked. The fact is we just don't ask. There's no way they'd turn us down. I just don't think we've had any use to apply the kind of, we've been getting more PR than we knew what to do with, so it's not like we needed more. But when the time comes that we need it, it's an outreach we probably ought to do. We're not going to get turned down.
Right. Yeah, I've been pretty excited about how much Marvel has been supporting us. I forget what Marvel Universe Online has been doing hand building parties where the people who play the different superhero parts on their website have shown up to help kids make the hands and put them together and assemble them, and when Aaron Brown did his first Wolverine hand, I think Marvel Universe contacted him to show up for some of their hand assembling parties, and it's pretty cool seeing that it's not just that we don't have to seek out people so much. The Limitless guys have been seeking people out because they find out what the kid that they're working with favorite thing is, and then they go and talk to the people involved with that project and see if any of them want to be involved with delivering one of the hands to the kid, and that's been kind of exciting. I imagine we'd see similar results if we just started asking random celebrities to come on board. I'd like to talk to some of the. There are quite a few different amputees that are movie stars that it would be interesting to see them play around with some of our hands just to see what they think of them, to give feedback again, and to interact with some of the other kids that we're interacting with, to let them know that it's possible to be amazing with disabilities. They're not really disabling. They are, our entire species are tool users. If we have to use a few extra tools to get jobs done, that doesn't make us any less human than everyone else. And
Well, if you notice, or at least I've noticed with the younger kids, they don't want biomimetic hands. They want very specific tools to augment what they can do. They're not trying to go for a baseline normalcy. They don't miss something they never had. They're looking for adaptive tools, and they're looking for ways to make their limb more useful. I mean, almost, transhumanist kind of thing. They don't want an arm that works like the one that should have been there. They want something better.
Let's see. Yeah, when I was a kid, Manny in The Moon is a Harsh Mistress was one of my heroes in my childhood, because of his missing arm that he could detach and put a new one on, and that he had a different hand for every task that he needed, like one that had a 360 rotation that could be used to grip a drill bit and drill into things and things like that. He was one of my favorite characters in science fiction, and just in an old book that predates me by more than a decade. But yeah, it's always been my goal to have abilities to enhance my body rather than just. It seems like I'm short-sighted if my only goal is to achieve what everyone else can achieve with their hands. If I can't make my hands amazing, I'm not thinking creatively enough.
It's a good attitude to have. I think ultimately the correct one.
So if nobody else has anything to bring up today, we covered a couple of pretty interesting things with with the show and tell from Les, and I'm always interested in seeing what projects he's playing with. I don't mind a lightweight, merely an hour-long hangout every now and then. It allows me to get home a little earlier. If anybody else has anything else, feel free to speak up.
Nope, not really. You personally, I'd like to chat with sometime about Linux and embedded systems. We've never gotten around to doing that, and
sure.
I would value your advice on that at some point, but it doesn't need to be this evening necessarily. So.
I write software to control water trucks, and I do a little bit of modification of the operating system that the vendors provide with the touch screens that we use in our water trucks, because I'm also using them for data collection, and I need a way to transmit the log files that they create over Wi-Fi, and that means I need to have multiple embedded Linux machines to collect and transmit those data files. So yeah, a lot of things I'm playing with are related to mining and GPS tracking of large pieces of industrial equipment.
Nice. Well, the underlying architecture, though, I'm sure, and some things that would be cool if I could get a little bit of input on.
And the technologies that I play with and the standards that I play with are worth getting to know. J1911, or I'm sorry, J19. Why do words drop out of my head? Anyway, CAN bus has several different protocols that are pretty useful for rapidly transmitting data from one piece of equipment to another. It'd be kind of fun to make CAN bus work over Bluetooth networking if we wanted a really, really highly responsive method for sending messages to hands. it'd be kind of cool to play with that. Although we'd have to write a stack for both sides of the network connection, and that might be a little bit awkward. Sorry, looking at the link that.
Yeah, it's from a cartoon show.
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist cosplay props.
Sorry, cartoons are for kids. I believe they call it anime.
The only difference between anime and cartoons is who makes them and where they're made.
Yes. One has Japanese people with huge eyes screaming a lot.
Right, and the Japanese cartoons have less of a less of a restriction against adults watching cartoons.
Yeah.
The culture is a little bit more into it.
Yeah, my son's watched that before. That's actually a pretty cool show.
And let's face it, it's one heck of a prosthetic.
Yeah.
I assume that one's probably empty. It's
But I got at
probably.
e-NABLE yet.
What's that?
I said I was really surprised I didn't see the hand, his arm, as a prosthetic at e-NABLE yet.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Oh yes, it will.
Let's see. Somebody made there was a cosplayer girl with a missing arm who did Furiosa from Fury Road cosplay arm for her left arm, and that was pretty cool looking. Let's see. On that picture, she was.
Oh, wow, that would be cool.
Yeah, she built a functional Furiosa prosthetic arm. Let's see, I think this is her. Yeah, this is her. Hold on.
Oh, I've already got a picture of it. That's awesome.
Yeah. This was a Nerdist podcast, and the Nerdist website had some links to it.
How come they didn't make Nerd Girls when I was younger?
They were around. They just.
They were very hard to find. Now they're an in vogue thing, which is awesome, but not for us, you know. So whatever.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool looking hand. I'm not sure functional is the right word because I don't think that she can actually open and close the hand with it.
Ah, okay. That is a different person than the one. This is not an uncommon thing, apparently.
It's a really cool thing that showed up in popular culture that a lot of people have decided would be fun to emulate.
There you go. There's another one.
All right. Oh, native fruit Furiosa, nice. Oh, that looks really good.
Yeah, it does. Totally unrelated, but did you guys ever see the Amazon review for that silver cake decoration spray?
Yes.
That was truly epic.
Witness.
Yeah. Hey Lydia, look up Wilton Silver Mist on Amazon, and you'll get it. You'll get it immediately.
Yeah, lots of Fury Road references in the comments on that one.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, it was a silver metallic cake decorating spray that, depending on how you look at the PR, got on either the right or the wrong end of Fury Road.
Yes, nice and shiny, as they say, in a non-Firefly context. Yeah, have you watched Fury Road, Lydia?
Not really.
I like where your brain goes, Richard, but that's awesome.
Oh dear.
Um,
I'm the only female in this call right now. I can tell.
yeah. Yeah, Fury Road was a pretty good movie. It's worth watching if you get a chance. It's got 80-year-old actresses doing their own stunts. It was pretty amazing and pretty empowering. I was really fond of it.
Yeah. Well, I just remember when I was a kid watching the original Mad Max. It really disturbed me. So that's really not my style.
I understand.
I just, yeah.
Uh,
There were a few scenes that I just kind of went, no.
I'm not sure if this one would be more or less disturbing. I guess I should say it would just be disturbing in a variety of different ways than the original.
Most likely.
It's an adrenaline rush all the way through, and humans are acting like humans, by which I mean very, very unfair to each other and not very nice. But it's got some really strong character development through the whole thing. It's got some really strong moral messages that were pretty well delivered, and it's got some really you care about the characters, and they do that with very little dialogue, which is impressive.
Well,
That stuff blows up.
well, I don't mind stuff blowing up. What I mind is violence against defenseless people, and that was what I remember from the original.
Right. Yeah, this is a lot more of the defenseless people becoming less defenseless, and starting to take back control of their lives. It's pretty impressive. It's pretty worth watching.
But you guys remember the original Mad Max, right?
Oh yeah, and I can recall there were some. Yeah, Mad Max was the only one that wasn't one of the bad guys that really knew how to stand on his own. There were a bunch of defenseless people there that were just getting run over roughshod, and I can recall that being very disturbing. Now this is different. It's certainly not non-violent, but it's I don't think you would be disturbed by it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, you might be shouting cheers at a lot of the moments in it. It's
Yeah.
I mean, there are good guys in the show that get killed, but you feel bad for it happening, but you don't feel like that it was a waste. You don't feel like it was just somebody getting
gratuitous is what they call it.
It's not gratuitous. It's not just people getting beaten up just to show off people getting beaten up. It's there's a plot, there's a story, and it all ties in very, very well. And like I said, really, really good character development with very little dialogue, which is impressive. It's always impressive when that pulls off. And there's an amputee character who is a role model, and that's pretty awesome with our community specifically.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So let's see. I think we've covered everything we really want to talk about. We're just chatting now. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. This was
I'm checking the questions and stuff just in case.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a little while since I checked that.
Yeah, we could explore a little bit more about the silver spray in that model. Yeah. Now Lydia's not paying attention. Oh well. We're making fun of you, Lydia. Giving you a hard time.
Let's see.
Okay, I'm a little distracted tonight, so it's kind of just bouncing off.
Yeah.
So something about feedback that what Eric said.
Yeah, and I probably should have been looking at it when he actually posted it because there's no timestamps on the QA, which is kind of.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he was referring to. I'll ask Jeff Gold offline, and if I've got an answer,
Okay.
I'll feed it back to him. And if I don't have an answer, I'll ask Eric what he knows, and we'll both contact him.
Mm.
Yeah, that was the last one. His question was, how do we get that feedback, right? Referring to what Eric just said. And that doesn't...
What Eric just said.
Yeah, he didn't just say it at this point in the game, so I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, if he's still watching, maybe he can tell us what more of the context of what he was wanting to know.
I forgot to create the document for putting sidebar chat notes in. Let me do that really quick.
Okay. Yeah, and when we stop the broadcast, we'll definitely need someone to copy and paste that for us. Yeah, I've been pretty tired on Mondays lately because I have a lot to do on Monday.
Yeah, I've been wondering, I've been sort of dragging my feet on rescheduling every week instead of just every other week.
Well, every other Monday is when I'm busy, and so I'm just...
The other Mondays, it would be better for you, huh?
Yeah, but I'm just one person, so...
Right. And we're mostly doing the, let's see, new, the dot.
Yeah, I do note these have become a little more general over time. We used to, I believe, have a bit more of a specific focus, primarily because there were things we were working on that were active at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there are so many projects that have splintered off in different ways and people working on different kind of fringe elements that it's more of a show and tell of what people are up to, but there doesn't seem to be a coherent overarching theme. Maybe we can toss out some issues that need to be solved or that people have brought up and sort of bring them up a couple of weeks ahead of time, or try and get folks to focus and share so we're prepared to share on a single topic, and maybe still compare notes and do other things. But what do you think of that, giving some direction to what the meetings will be ahead of time as opposed to just saying, asking who wants to present randomly? Would it help?
Well, even when I create an agenda, I want this to be as freeform as we can so that people can show up with something that we haven't discussed ahead of time and get some chance to converse about it. When people want to present things, if I know early enough, I will mention it in the announcement.
Oh, no, not what people want to present. I like that free form. I like bringing new ideas in. I meant not setting aside who's going to present. I'm talking about actually assigning a topic for people to work on, or something for us to put our heads together on before.
Oh, right.
So that when we get together, everybody can compare notes on the same topic we've all been working on for a couple of weeks.
Richard, I posted that in sidebar for copying and pasting the notes.
Yeah, I think there's room for both. I think that'd be cool to have maybe the first part of it be the discussion that the comparing notes discussion, and then maybe after that could be the more free-form thing.
Yeah, something to help engender a little bit more teamwork. It seems like everyone's working kind of solo at this point, and I
Yeah.
mean, I've got a team of folks with me, you know, when we in the past, a long time ago, when there was something needed to be done, we could jump into it. And currently, we're actually working on like the ARM with Skip and all that. But there hasn't really seemed to be a lot of direction or a pressing need for us to jump into to help out with, and we feel kind of, you know, spinning free in space, you know, not really meshed in with anybody there in e-NABLE. And I think a lot of the other folks probably, we're not really meshed, sharing ideas, bouncing them off of each other, solving a problem. We're just sort of all off on our own and then comparing notes from time to time about disparate projects. But it's not a whole lot of meshing or networking going on there. Didn't know if that might help engender a bit more of that.
Could be.
Yeah, I can see the value of that. One thing I would like to see some more discussion on, we've had a few people doing show and tell in the last couple of Hangouts where they were doing really, really alternate finger designs that I'd like to see, I don't know, more exploration of alternate finger designs.
I like it. Maybe putting something up for volunteers to have groups self-organize so that we might have 4 or 5 R&D topics that need to be handled. A problematic thumb, or angles for, or type of grippers, gauntlet, thermoforming, whatever. Let people kind of self-organize into those groups, and then they can talk to each other, and then they can present at an R&D meeting and get more, just to sort of help focus and get everybody connected.
Yeah.
A little more teamwork.
Yeah, I'm just but didn't you say that you're doing stuff with the ARM team?
Doing stuff with the ARM team, but that has nothing to do with this at all.
It has to do with e-NABLE.
Well, it does, which is great, but the R&D meetings itself don't have... the R&D meetings aren't pulling people together as a meeting of minds, it's show and tell. And it can be both.
Right.
I would, I'll see if I can post something related to this topic in the community in the next couple of days, because this is not a bad idea. I would like to see people come in with new ideas about a topic, give people some puzzles to try to solve, and see what they come up with.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just kind of a puzzler of the week of, hey, somebody's having trouble with this kind of linkage or this kind of filament or this kind of hinge joint. What do people have? We'll be discussing it next week. It gives people time to come in with some ideas.
Yeah, sounds good.
I like that idea. I will try to remember to post a question about that. Yeah, the freeform conversations are, Chuck posted, I learned a lot in these free-ranging conversations, which is not going to get into the notes, unless somebody else has the ability to cut and paste from the Sidebar chat. Yeah, they've been surprisingly popular. I post them on the day that they happen, sometimes fairly late in the day, and I still get a lot of people responding and a lot of people joining. And if I gave people a topic early on, I'm wondering what kind of responses we get to it, and if we get a lot of people jumping in to experiment with that topic.
It might also attract some people to come in and say, hey, that's what I do for a job. You know, and boom, all of a sudden we got 8 people who are programmers or 8 people who are machinists or something that time because they felt they had something specific to contribute.
Yeah.
Right. Or even just 10 occupational therapists who have looked at this problem before and have some good ideas on how to approach solving it.
Yes, it would be nice to be able to have some OTs in here to pick their brains.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are some OT techniques I've learned to do over the years that if I had had a chance to talk to an OT about it when I was a lot younger, would have made a lot of things easier for me. Like For example, I use a shop vac in my bathroom to pull my hair into a ponytail in the morning. I basically put the rubber band on the end of the shop vac and then suck my hair up into it and pop the rubber band off, and then I have to brush the tangles out of the hair because there's enough air currents in the
Jeff Gould, what do you mean by looking at alternate materials? Alternate to what? Currently we use ABS and PLA and
several different types of nylon.
Yeah, nylon. There was something else. Eric, were you talking about like something like TPE or something?
When? Today or?
No, when you were presenting your thermoformable gauntlet.
Oh, yes, yes. There were a number of specific plastics, a couple of them that used in the medical community for prosthetics. We were looking at ABS was one of them.
Okay.
HDPE perhaps. I'm trying to think. There were a number of them we worked on.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them work out well for thermoforming, some don't. Kydex. I'm trying to. I can't remember exactly which. PETG. That might have been the one you're thinking of.
Somebody mentioned TPE at one point, but that may have been somebody from India, and they were talking about how it was easy to get it there.
Yeah, there was somebody that was talking about TPE when they were showing off their one-piece finger design that was all a fairly soft plastic that they had used.
Oh, okay.
TPE, something elastomeric, something fairly was it flexible filament or flexible material?
He was doing something with flexible. He had the fingers that were all ovals that were open, that had the string running down the center to do the flexion, and it was all, the fingers were each printed as one piece instead of a couple of joints that could be linked, which allowed for 3 points of articulation on the fingers, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, good. So, Jeff, it sounds like you have some questions. You're welcome to join us if you'd like.
Yeah, that last link that I posted in the announcement should get you into the Hangout if you've got the Hangouts client installed. Other alternate things that are being printed with a lot, the Flexi hand uses Filaflex.
And,
oh yeah, PTG is food safe.
Yeah, and what about
Flexi hands use Filaflex a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you know if anybody's used Ninja Flex for the Flexi things? Or
people have, yeah. I haven't seen a lot of feedback as to which is actually better, except from Steve, who favors the Filaflex.
He's obviously a Filaflex junkie, but I went ahead and did Ninja Flex anyway because it was manufactured actually not that by a company not that far from where I work in town. Did not have good luck with it. Couldn't get good results with it. I even had, just to play with it, I thought maybe it was my learning curve. I ordered some from a professional 3D printing firm done in it, and it came apart just as fast. It was...
Okay.
Filaflex properly put together is impossible to tear apart. That stuff is frighteningly tough, and it doesn't separate on the print lines like you'd think. Ninja Flex wasn't quite as stiff, also wasn't quite as strong, a little more prone to tearing.
Okay.
I have limited experience with it, but everybody else I talk to as well, they don't make any durable items with a Ninja Flex. It's flexible, it ain't tough.
Okay.
Chuck says food safe filament is important for some of the younger recipients who may end up with plastic fingers in their mouth. I'm not sure how small of hands we are. Sorry, switch windows. How small of hands we have printed, though.
Have we printed any hands out of any of the amphora derivatives yet?
The what?
Amphora?
Don't know what that is.
It's a relatively new plastic. I believe it was developed by Eastman specifically for 3D printing, actually, and it is FDA safe. 2 or 3 companies who make FDA or approved filaments make it out of Eastman's, I believe Amphora is the name of it.
Interesting.
Let me look up some brand names on it real quick.
Okay,
Yeah,
'cause
and
you know what an
see if you can find
amphora
the
is?
spelling too. Or if
Yeah.
you can type the spelling into the sidebar, that would be
Yeah,
helpful.
Amphora, like the vase, like the vessel. Hold on a
Oh,
second.
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's I know that from an archaeology background. What an amphora is? It's a gigantic water jar from
Right.
back in
But
the day.
we were also talking about 3D printing, which is a byproduct of the internet, and so replacing FOR with the number 4 is not unheard of.
Yeah. I do not know all who's using it, but I do know at least ColorFab is one of them. I think there's about 3 companies at least that are using it, and that's the PETG copolymer. I'm not sure how many other PETG filaments there are out there, but I do know there's at least 3 of them that are using the Amphora product. And from everything I've seen printed with it and from everything I've tested with it, the stuff is amazing. But I've never done a hand with it, so it's just not yet anyway.
Huh.
When I get a chance, the printers are all running right now nonstop trying to work on something else. As soon as I get a chance, I'm going to play with it more. But it's good stuff. I mean, it's good filament, and it wasn't a plastic adapted to filament. It was actually designed to be a 3D printing material. So it is apparently has some very good attributes to it, but it is also food safe. So I just thought I'd bring that up. It's a little premature to say that it's probably going to be a better material than ABS or
Right.
PLA for hands, but at least on paper it looks like it'll probably replace both for hands.
Nice.
Hey Nathaniel, could you put that link into the Google document that I posted earlier so that can be there? And Jeff, I am going to post a link to the Google document so that you should be able to see all the links that were posted in the sidebar chat, so you can see what's been talked about that you couldn't see earlier. He says he would love to participate next time. He says 3DX Tech uses Amphora, and he was asking Eric what type of NinjaFlex you were using, and that you're correct on Amphora being food safe. Or you were correct on Amphora. I don't know if it was about the food safe or if it was about something else.
Okay. Looks like Tallman is also doing some form of derivative of that.
Yeah, Tallman is pretty cool. They've done a lot of things where they've sent test filaments to some of our bigger printers. 3D Universe with
Jeremy Simon.
Yeah, Jeremy Simon they've sent him a lot of different, like the Tallman has a bridge nylon, I think it's called, which is a nylon that can be printed at like ABS or PLA temperatures, I think ABS temperatures, and so that it can be printed with a much better or a much cheaper printer. And so a lot of those kind of things were interesting to see done. They've been pretty supportive and pretty interesting with the experimental filaments they've been playing with. Anything else in QA? You're welcome, Jeff.
Oh.
What's that? There was a question on the NinjaFlex. I'm sorry, to get back to that before I forgot. What was it?
Right, he was asking which NinjaFlex you were using.
Don't know. Let me look and see, because I didn't think there was that much diversity. It wasn't like anything fancy, clear or glow in the dark or anything. It was just, I believe, blue and black. Let me see if there's different flavors of it. I didn't know there were. It was Ninja Flex, not Semi-Flex. That must be even newer. Okay.
Mm.
It was there. What do they call it? Yeah, Ninja Flex, not Semi-Flex.
What's semi-flex like?
I don't know. I didn't know it existed until just right now.
Okay, never mind.
I try and keep up as I can, but it's a full-time job.
I bet. That's why I'm not able to keep up with it.
Hey, at least I brought Amphora to the table. I'm not completely behind the power curve, right?
You're a lot farther ahead than I am. So what was Trouble going to go do?
Flee the building screaming.
Jeff Gould says, that answers my question. It's slightly more rigid. The Ninja Flex or the Filaflex or the Semi-Flex?
Yeah, the Filaflex seemed to be a little firmer, but it was a whole lot tougher. And
Yeah.
it was easier to get as long as your temperatures were consistent and you're using a direct drive, not a Bowden.
Right.
Well, you can't really use a Bowden with pretty much any flexible and get it to work. But as long as you're using a direct drive and you got your PID loop set, your temperature's stable and you've got the heat there, Filaflex is amazing stuff. Once you get it tuned in, it's easy to use.
Mm-hmm. If you have the right printer.
If you have the right head on your printer, yeah. Anybody with a Bowden tube printer is going to have a hard time with flexible. People have done it. People have tried it with mixed success. I'd say, you're looking for a headache if you don't have a direct drive head.
So which printers, just for our audience, I know we've already talked about this once, but what are some examples of Bowden drive printers and what are some examples of direct drive printers?
Most hobby printers are Bowden.
Oh.
Primarily because they're trying to take the mass off of the moving carriage, the Z-axis, X-axis, however it is set up, simply because the machines aren't very rigid and they don't have a lot of oomph behind them, and so the less mass you have, the better the acceleration curve. It tends to be bigger, stronger, faster, more heavier built printers that can afford the weight of a direct drive. And so, however, you can put a direct drive on just about anything. I don't know what brands come with direct drive, to be honest. I know most of the hobby ones are going to be Bowden nowadays.
Okay.
Yeah, my Maker Farm printers are all direct drive.
Cool.
Maker Farm, you said?
Yeah, Maker Farm is they sell you kits. And
Okay.
so if you want to learn how to make a 3D printer, or if you want to learn everything about what's going on inside your 3D printer, I definitely recommend using a Maker Farm printer. They're really cheap, and they send really good quality equipment to you. You learn a lot about the printer as you put it together, as you build it, and they've got really, really rapid response on their when you ask for help, or when you ask for replacement parts, or when you ask for whatever.
They really do want to help people, it sounds like.
They want to help people learn is a big part of it. And I don't know if it's a they or if it's just a guy in his apartment in Utah somewhere. But every time I've asked a question, I get an answer in less than an hour, even if it's the middle of the night, it seems like.
Nice.
Nice. They look like interesting kits. I like it.
Yeah, and they've got some of the larger printers for some of the cheaper prices I've ever messed with. And they've got some upgrade kits that I'm getting ready to make. They've got an upgrade kit that allows me to do a dual filament. So I just need to print the new extruder and then add another motor. And I'm thinking about putting together a dual extruder printer with my Maker Farm i3D.
You said print and extruder.
Mhm.
What kind of filament are you using to print an extruder? Is that the hot end?
No, it's the motor above the hot end, or it's the gearbox above the hot end that
Oh,
pushes the filament into the hot end.
okay. Okay. I was just for some reason I was thinking hot end plus plastic equals melted plastic equals melted parts. So I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, the extruder is what pushes the plastic in.
Okay.
The extrusion happens on the other end of the hot end, but the extruder is the part that pushes it in. If it's
Okay.
direct driven, the extruder is right up against the hot end. If it's a Bowden, then the extruder would be at the other end of the Bowden cable.
Right.
That's why the flexible filaments don't work through the longer cable, because it's compressible and stretchable. It's like trying to, push a rubber band. It builds up. You can't do any retraction with it. It's stretched and compressed. The direct drive, your motor is right there, like a quarter of an inch above your hot end. It feeds directly into it, so you don't have to try and push a squishy, a rubbery string.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and most of the hot ends have a series of metal vanes or metal
Heat
uh,
sink.
heat sinks, yeah, that you have a fan pointed right at. So the bottom end is really hot, the top end is a lot cooler, and the plastic of your extruder can be pressed right up against the top side of the hot end if your fan is working correctly.
Hmm.
Yeah, I noticed that this Maker Farm uses the E3D heads. People are going to think I'm like a salesman for E3D or something, but I can't say enough good about their heads. I've almost gone office space on several 3D printers until I discovered all metal heads, and after that, never looked back. It's perfect.
Yeah.
They cost a few dollars more, and they used to be the only game in town was E3D. I think there's a couple more manufacturers coming out with all metal heads, but oh man, you just can't go wrong. The 20 extra bucks is well worth keeping all your hair.
Yeah.
The hot end I've got is not the E3D. I'm thinking I'm going to update it eventually. The one I've got is, let's find it really quick. The hexagon that they've got on their hot ends page. The hexagon hot end is the one I've got. But yeah, they looks like most of their hot ends now are the E3D varieties.
Yeah, I notice more and more folks, it used to be everybody made their own variation on a theme of the old J-heads or whatever. I notice more and more that all the printer companies have just found one or two really good head suppliers and just go with them. Don't want to reinvent the wheel anymore, and I like that.
Yeah. That was silly.
One of the things about the kit makers is they're trying to do everything as cheap as possible, so they're not building their own hot ends. They're buying their hot ends from other people.
Right. Yeah, it's the principle of bulk buying. Or wholesale, I guess they call it.
Yeah, well, I like that some of the hardware has become stable enough now that it's not constantly churning in development and being proprietary, that a couple of designs have raised head and shoulders above the rest, and economy of scale just means a couple of companies to purchase from is the easiest way to go. I mean, before it,
Yeah, standardization is always a good idea if you can get it to that point.
Yeah, a few years ago when I looked, there were something like 200 different 3D printer manufacturers, and almost all of them were, working off a kitchen table in a garage, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it made consistency anywhere, anytime very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, no industry does that. So it's good that 3D printing is starting to follow suit.
I'm going to go ahead and take us off air. This was the e-NABLE R&D Hangout for 2015, October 26th. And it was a pretty interesting hangout. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for watching.
Bye, everybody.